All right, I think it's about time to start. Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me. I hope you can see me too. My name is Zis Samaras, and I am AirTrack Vice Chair and moderator of this session. Let me remind you very fast some uh, of the main points of the session. We are going to hear three very interesting presentations, one after the other, with pre-recorded videos. Then, during the presentations, you are very welcome to ask your questions in the conversation box, which you can find to your left, and they will be addressed, these questions, during the Q&A session that will follow all three presentations. So, we will not be breaking for in each presentation, but we'll have all the discussion at the end. So without delaying anymore, I would like to introduce Maurizio Maggiore from the European Commission, who's the Commission's representative, and who will be addressing and giving the main points of this session. Maurizio.
Hello, thank you, and good afternoon, and thank you for all the attendance to this session on air quality. The three projects that will be presented in the session are part of the 7 selected from the INCO flagship on emissions we launched 3 years ago. Other selected projects cover emissions by ships and aircraft, so they're not here, or the health impact of ultrafine particles. Still undervalued part of the emissions from transport that we are trying to put more in focus. In fact, these are the particles that can enter our body and often accumulate in some organs and might be much more dangerous than large particles like those coming from tires and brakes. Unfortunately, these different types of particles are put on a similar level in some recent publication, focusing more on bare compliance with rules than on actually protecting the health of citizens. The call, instead, wanted to focus exactly on these and real threats. And the common denominator of the project that have been chosen for this session, for these 3 projects, is the user, which is another often forgotten part of the emission equation. First of all, she or he can choose a cleaner vehicle, and GVI, one of the projects we are looking now, try to point them in the right direction, considering a wider range of driving conditions and pollutants than current legislation, and doing away with the limits of previous schemes, which sometimes only address the CO2 or use unacceptable scoring methodologies derived to put on the same level a zero-emission vehicle and a diesel emitting tens of billions of particles per kilometer, or not considering particle emissions like a running scheme is doing at the moment. This is a concept that we have been developing for 15 years and implemented for the first time in the Horizon prizes for the cleanest engine retrofit and for the cleanest engine of the future a few years ago. But only the recent scandals have finally convinced everybody of the need of such a comprehensive holistic scheme. This is intended to give credit to those who do the right thing and shame into improving their products those who don't. A mechanism that has been shown to work very well with the Euro NCAP system that drove the market for safety, and we hope that this will lead to improving also our health. The user can also do something for the environment by driving in an appropriate way. But up to now, they basically didn't know how, because the guidance that is given here and there on some websites and schemes is only for saving fuels and therefore CO2. And sometimes there's implied that it was basically the same thing because if you reduce the burning of the fuel, you reduce the emissions. That's not true. Emissions are not linear. And we wanted the project to look into this, and UCARE tries just that, providing information on what is the current driving style for low pollution. Let's see what they achieved. And finally, some users and some manufacturers are not always following the rules and either tamper with the devices intended to reduce pollution, like taking away the particle filter or disabling the SCR, or change the ECU of the vehicle, or don't do appropriate maintenance, or put on the market vehicles that are emitting more than allowed, or that age badly. So a remote sensing infrastructure, which is the subject of CARES, is needed to monitor and prosecute such events, and this will greatly contribute to cleaning the air, as one vehicle with a temper particle filter, for instance, can emit like 1,000 or even 10,000 untempered vehicles. So let's now listen to what the projects have actually achieved. Thank you.
I think without any delay anymore, let's start with the first project, the GVI, the Green Vehicle Index, and kindly ask Alba Gadbi to take the. Thank you very much for keeping the time also, Norbert, and for the interesting presentation and data. I think we still have at least 12 minutes for discussion, that we're going to use all of them. As Mauricio Maggiore said in the start, these are three very interrelated projects, as you were able to understand on your own and to see for yourselves. Let's start with a few questions we have, first of all, for the CARES project. Maybe we can start with the following question. There were two actually questions, focusing on the sniffing approach, on the sniffer vehicle. So one question is the same sense, is the measurement vehicle supposed to follow in a certain close distance, and how far it is from the preceding vehicle, or it is just participating in the traffic? And also a related question, how to facilitate distance at high speed?
Thank you very much for those questions, and I'm happy to have Norbert with me because is highly involved in the plume chase experiments. So maybe Norbert, you could answer that. Both.
Yeah, can you hear me, Ok?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. I can answer that question. So we are not leading the plume chasing work, but we are collaborating together with Heidelberg and Leeds on this. But the idea is that it is eventually for enforcers, like for police officers and things like that. And the idea is that the quality of the measurement equipment is good enough that you can do safe driving in normal traffic. And so far, all the pilots and test runs show that it is very well possible. Maybe you cannot keep the 2-second rule distance on the motorway, but behind the truck, if you drive with 1 second distance, you can get pretty good readings if you locate your inlet of your gas sensors in the right location.
Thank you, Norbert. Also for the CARES project, I think a very standard question, I would say, is the same remote sensing technology used for both gasoline and diesel vehicles? Are there any differences? And if I may add my own question, what about the particle measurement? Do we have the same sensitivity and the same results for gasoline and diesel?
First question is that you use same technology, whatever the vehicle or the technology of the vehicle is. Second question is that, as I think I mentioned in the presentation, that there are some shortcomings of the commercial technologies today, because they use spectroscopy, laser or infrared UV, and they're not. I mean, it's a matter of measuring opacity, actually, what they do. So this is where the two other CARES technologies come in, because they are using sort of more established techniques for measuring particle number and also in various size fractions. So this will improve the accuracy of the remote emission sensing measurements of particulate matter in that way, we hope or think.
Maybe, Eke, to insist a little bit on this, you showed two technologies, diffusion charging and photoacoustic method, which are, as you very correctly said, very much used in measurement in different environments. Can you tell me, are they both suggested for the remote sensing per se? I mean, to be integrated into the overall remote sensing device? Or do they
yeah, well, at least they are meant to be standalone instruments that can detect individual vehicles, PN and black carbon soot particle emissions. So I don't think it's within the scope of the project to integrate them with the sort of more established techniques, but this can be done, I think, through the software development. So yeah, we will demonstrate these technologies per se as they are standalone, but they should be used maybe in more holistic approach to ensure that you do the right detection of high emitters, and also to make best benefit for money in those kind of measurements.
Okay, thank you. A final question always for the CARES project, which is also related with the previous discussion. It is asked like that: do you think this technology can be used with on board parallelly, or maybe not this one? Because I'm not sure I understand what the question is. Yeah, the question would be rather in the direction is: do we always need one vehicle to pass per each for each correct measurement, including PN measurement, or we can have different vehicle plumes passing?
Well, that's probably not possible. I think you need to have interference-free plumes.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there may be some different means of how to solve that. But basically, the measurement principle is based on that you should locate one single plume, and if you mix two plumes, you will have a problem with measuring and have good measurement and identify which vehicle emitted which plume.
Okay. Thank you. Maybe we should also move to the other projects. First of all, a very challenging question, I think, for GVI. Do you have any plan to evaluate well-to-wheel emissions, CO2, and emissions in general? Maybe you have to unmute yourself. I'm afraid we cannot hear you.
Cannot hear you, Alba. Alba, we cannot hear you, but I can answer that. It's on the roadmap for GVI.
Okay, Norbert?
Right, Alba?
No. Just to answer the question, because Alba cannot unmute, it's on the plan to be
Hello,
included.
can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, sorry for that. I wanted to also join to this discussion to Norbert, because we are working together on that. But at the end, it's in the roadmap. But as you already know, it's a very delicate issue to take into account. So it's under discussion. In discussion if it should be only as information purposes, or how we are going to deal to include it somehow in a rating. Because it's a hard work to fairly compare that, because of course it depends on the energy mix of the countries. So at this point in time is under discussion, and it's in the roadmap from 2030.
Okay, thank you very much. Although I see an answer also from Mauricio stating that, in particular, the target of the project is to drive technology, onboard technology development. So, well-to-wheel maybe is a secondary target, but still, I think the answer clearly shows that the researchers have this in their roadmap.
Yeah.
On the UCARE project, there was, okay. Before we go to the UCARE, another question for GVI, which is not absolutely clear to me. How do you assess the quality of the measurements with tests in labs? I think you made it clear, Alba, that you have both types of measurements, right? On the road and in lab. So please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So I can guess more or less the question, but I can explain you that with GVI and also with Green NCAP, we have a quality team that is assessing the consistency of the measurements for all the labs involved. Of course, the equipment it's maintained according to the manufacturer requirements of maintenance and also according to the guidelines of the regulation. And we perform lab testing, and before going to the road with the PEMS measurement, we do a PEMS validation, correlation in the lab within a WLTP cold test, and we compare the measurements from PEMS equipment and the let's say the baseline measurements from the lab emissions.
Thank you, Alba. And finally, a question to UCARE directly. Question is as follows, Norbert. I guess you saw it. How connect to reduce real-world emissions? Do you have a detailed idea?
Yeah, so we have a long list of reduction measures, reduction potential included, and they include driving styles, reduce braking, velocity, stay at a certain place of the engine map, but they also include items like maintenance of the car, keeping the car in the right state, possibility to reduce, for example, the weight in your car, the dead weight in your car, and all of these items are included. And there's a very quite elaborate emission model, which depends on basically on the emission data of that vehicle to assess how big the effect is. So I don't know whether that's the answer to the question, but we have a long list of material available, and the question is what would the stakeholders would like to include, and they are basically they can pick from our long list of options to include into the pilot projects they are supporting.
Thank you, Norbert. I would like also to thank everyone for participating. I think we are exactly on time. I'm really sorry for all the technical problems that took place. It seems there is a glitch in the system, actually, and that is in the origin of these distractions. But nevertheless, I think we had the time. Thank you all. In particular, thank to all three distinguished speakers that we have. And please go back to the lobby in order to join our colleagues from EGVIA and also to decide about your next session. Thank you very much and see you very soon. Bye-bye.